On this lesson, we're doing mathematics. What is mathematics? It is the study of numbers, shapes, how variables relate to each other. There's a lot that we can discuss. We study about quantities, we study about size, we study about angles, right? Mathematics is interesting on its own. It's a universal language. It enables us to communicate a lot of things. So now we are doing fundamentals of algebra. First of all, we are going to start with the most basic question, right? What is a number? A number. Do you know what is a number? Right, let me get a blue pen. A number. A number. What is a number? A number is a symbol that tells us about a known quantity. A number is a symbol. Do not forget that. Symbol that represents known quantity. That is a number. You'll find that people often talk about the number, but they don't know what a number is. Now that we're talking about numbers, let me just also give you something relevant to this. A variable. Variable. A variable is also a symbol. Symbol that represents unknown quantity. Okay, this should be clear. This is very important operation, and in mathematics we have four operations. We have four operations. It's addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. In fact, we have an addition, and the additive inverse, which is subtract. Okay, the inverse of addition, we call it additive inverse. Additive inverse. It's a negative sign, meaning that you add a quantity with a negative sign. We also have a multiplication. Multiplication, right, is when you multiply two known quantities or two variables. But then you can also multiply. Multiplicative inverse. Multiplicative inverse. Okay, what is a multiplicative inverse? What is an additive inverse? Let us start with additive inverse. Additive inverse. So if I have 2 plus negative 2, this is an additive inverse. right? So the answer, in fact, what I'm doing here is actually 2 minus 2, right? You must know this, it's important. And a multiplicative inverse, multiplicative inverse. So if I have a 2 multiplied by a multiplicative inverse of 2, it's going to be 1 over 2, right? It's an inverse. So you end up with 2 over 2, which is equal to 1. So 1 over 2 is a multiplicative inverse of 2. And negative 2 is the additive inverse of positive 2. So we can say in mathematics, we've got an addition and multiplication. The other two are inverses. Clear? Perfect. Right. Now let us start our lesson. We're talking about fundamentals of algebra. I want to talk about real numbers. Real numbers. When we talk about real numbers, we are going to talk about different types of numbers. We're going to talk about natural numbers, integers, rational numbers, and irrational numbers. That will give you a very clear picture. Okay? From there, we're going to talk about properties of real numbers. Alright? And then it will be the end of the section. I want to keep this short and simple. So, when we talk about real numbers, its real number system is the systems that we use in numbers. So we will start with the first one. Okay, real numbers. The first one is going to be a natural number. What is a natural number? It's any number that starts from 1. Any number that starts from 1, you start counting 1, 2, 3 up to infinity. Any number that starts from 1, then 2, then 3, it can go to infinity. By the way, this horizontal 8 is the sign for infinity, meaning never ending. 2, we have integers. Right? Integers include numbers that are negative, 0, and positive. Is negative, we write negative like this, or negative. Negative numbers, 0, and positive numbers. Right. 3. Now that we spoke about 0, there is a number system called whole number. These are numbers they start from 0, They start from 0. They start from 0. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, up to infinity. Okay. And then we've got another type of a number 4, which we call a rational number. Rational number. What is a rational number? So we take ratios of integers, right? Ratios of integers. So when we talk about ratios, we talk about division. So a ratio is denoted like this. R is for ratio, M is a numerator, N is a denominator. So any numbers can be expressed as a ratio of M and N. 1 is 1 over 1. It's a rational number. 1 over 2, a fraction, is a rational number. So you are able to express fractions, whole numbers. You know, you can have half, you can have -3 over 7, you can have 46. I mean, we know that any number has got a denominator, like 46 here. The denominator of this 46 is 1. So all numbers have got numerators, okay, and denominators. That is why we talk about rational numbers, right? Okay, now we move into a set that is interesting. This is number 5. Irrational. So an irrational number is a number which is very difficult to express. It's difficult to express. It's unlike, you know, your rational numbers, okay? And it cannot be expressed as a ratio of integers, and therefore it's difficult, and we call these irrational numbers. They are very much challenging. Irrational number. So it can be shown with varying degrees of difficulty. These numbers, you can imagine something like a square root of 3, a square root of 5, maybe even a cube root of 2, you know, even a number pi. We all know what a pi is. Even if I can write this, it's difficult. These are difficult numbers, not really nice numbers to work with. Okay, so these are irrational numbers. Irrational. It's hard for us to express them as in the form of R is equals to M over N. It's very difficult, not easy. Okay, right. So we move forward. We are now ready to talk about properties of real numbers. Properties of real numbers. Okay, so when we talk about properties of real numbers, there are 3 important properties which you need to understand. The first one is called a commutative. This is important. Commutative, right? It's important to understand. So what it teaches us essentially, it's about addition and multiplication. Now you understand why we talk about addition and multiplication. Why? Subtraction is the additive inverse. Division is the multiplicative inverse. So there is no need to talk about that. We talk about addition and multiplication. So commutative property teaches us one thing, that the order of adding numbers or the order of multiplying numbers does not matter. Right? You can have A plus B. It's the same as B plus A. Even if you have A multiplied by B, it's the same as B multiplied by A. So in terms of example, you can have 3 plus 2, or you can have 2 plus 3. The answer is still 5. It does not change. You can have 3 multiplied by 2 is same as 2 multiplied by 3. The answer will not change. 6. Nothing changes. You see? Number 2. It's an associative property. Associative property. Okay, let me not write property. Associative. When we talk about associative property, is when you've got more than 2 numbers or variables that you're adding. We are still learning the same thing, that the order does not matter. You may have A plus B plus C. It is similar to A plus B plus C. It's the same thing. So you can have your 2 plus 3 plus 4, and you can have your 2 plus B is 3 plus 4. The answer is still the same. Still the same. It will give you 9. Similarly with multiplication, you can have AP times C. It's similar to A into B times C. So if you have 2 times 3 times 2, okay, so 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, times 2, it's gonna be the same here. So your A is 2, your B is 3, your C, okay, we can use a different number here. Perhaps we let us use 4, right, times 4. So 4 times 3 is 12, times 2 is 24. The answer will not change. See, 2 times 3 is 6, times 4 still 24. The third property the third property, number 3, is called distributive property. It's called distributive. What do we do here? We're distributing. Imagine you have a pocket of sweets you're giving to your friends. That is called distribution. Okay, so you may have A into B plus C. When you do distribution, you are going to get AB, A times B. This is how you do it, and A times C. This is how it works, right? It also teaches us that you will still get the same answer in the end. So this is how your distribution works. These three properties are extremely important. They will always pop up in your algebra, whatever you do, always. And algebra always pops up when you do your geometry, when you do your trigonometry, when you do calculus. Each and every section of mathematics, it has algebra. There is algebra. You'll find it. Even in statistics, you'll find it. Everywhere. It's important for you to understand algebra. There are also properties of negative numbers. We've done fractions, right? Properties of fractions. I can just give you a summary, but we've already done it. Okay. The only thing that we can do is on our next lesson is properties of negatives. Okay. So this is it. A simple thing that you need to understand. Let us talk about properties of negatives. It's simple here. 1. Negative multiplied by a negative is equals to a positive. 2. A negative times a positive is equals to a negative. 3. A positive times a negative gives you a negative. And 4. A positive times a positive, it gives you a positive. So positives come from 2. Okay? Positives come from 2 numbers. Positives come from here. This is where positives comes from, right here. And the negatives, they come from here. Similarly, when you divide, you can change the sign. You get the same answer. You can put divide here. You can put divide instead of multiplication. This is how it works. Alright, end of section.